Hey everyone, welcome back to Donslife. Welcome to the channel. Today is the day, and it's been 6 months in the making, but we are going to further enhance or beef up the look of my GMC Sierra AT4. Let's go. If you recall, last fall I was pulled over because of my window tint. I don't think it's that dark, but the law is the law. Although I didn't receive a fine for said window tint, I did receive an inspection order to reinstall the mud flaps on my truck because the fender flares that I had deleted this front mud flap here, and the rear fender flares deleted this mud flap there. So I had to put mud flaps back on in a very short window of time. Now, if you watched that video, you know I took some steps to procure some. They did arrive, but they arrived too late. So we had to put the stock mud flaps back on. Otherwise, I was looking at doing some type of universal application like this. Now, because these did not arrive in time, I was forced to go back to stock, which meant the removal of the fender flares that I used to have on here. So today I'm going to share with you everything that I considered over the last 6 months and ultimately what I decided to do. Now, for those of you that were familiar with the previous fender flares that I had from EGR, and obviously they're not on here right now, you knew that they did delete the mud flap here, but they didn't really lend themselves well to the addition of something universal like this mud flap here. So because these were late, like I said, I had to take off those fender flares and I had to reinstall the stock mud flaps. Now, it might have been possible to attach these at the same time as the EGR fender flares, but I think they'd look out of place. Now, despite my personal feelings on the matter, all this talk about mud flaps, window tint, and fender flares, although it may sound trivial, apparently where I live, window tint, mud flaps, and fender flares, depending on their implementation or lack of implementation, is a pretty big deal. Now, at the end of the day, it does come down to enforcement, so we'll see by the end of this video which route that we take. Now, keep in mind, with the removal of the fender flares, it also meant that I put my wheels back to their original stance. I used to have 2-inch spacers with these wheels on the truck, which made it look really aggressive, but not over the top. I think it looked really good. But right now, our wheels are kind of inset, almost flush, and I like a little bit of a poke, but with fender flares, I want it to be a little more aggressive. So that brings us to one of my considerations right here. So let me walk you through it. Because I have these mud flaps available to me now, even though they arrived a little late, I could delete the mud flap and put a cap like this on. These are made in Canada actually, but they are nicer than the rough country ones, in my opinion. So we could put these on, we could attach these mud flaps, we could have the wheels poke out a bit, and the mud flaps would help with any rocks that might get thrown across the body or at other vehicles. So we have this option available to us. And these mud flaps, which these are the 12-inch wide, and you can get them even wider, they're made by Enthuse. So that's them right there. So all that being said, I just don't know if these accessories on their own is really what I'm looking for. You may recall that we added the DV8 off-road bumpers. We got one in the front there, very aggressive looking. In the back, equally aggressive looking. And I think we just need to pile on more attitude when it comes to this truck. And at this point, I don't think there's anything wrong with a little more attitude. So it's because these bumpers were added about 6 months ago that I tell you this was 6 months in the making. But we now have some fender flares that we are going to install on my GMC Sierra AT4. These are the Air Designs Super Bolt fender flares. I've ordered them in the satin black install ready form. We could wrap them, we could paint them to match, but for now we're going satin black install ready because, well, there's quite a bit of black on here, so I think it will still work. We'll just open it up here. We have our installation hardware, and we have our fender flares. So they do have the rivets, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to change things up. If you look at my Kuat rack, it's full of all types of bolts and attachments, so I think this will tie in nicely. The fender flares I had before, they were rivetless, so they were kind of a more subtle design, but sometimes we change things up. And just like you've come to expect from this channel, the things that I install or I review, they may not be things that you're really interested in. However, you are going to get insight into the installation process and ultimately what they're going to look like on this truck. I think it's going to be sick. Well, for hardware, it looks like they give you everything that you need. QR code for the instructions, adhesion promoter, thread locker, crayon to draw on the body, some brackets, some screws, and a bunch of clips to help retain the fender flare. And there seems to be an odd number out here, so maybe there's an extra, I'm not sure, but there's 2 small ones and the rest larger ones. So I'm gonna start at the front, and then I'm gonna do the rear, and then I'll repeat on the other side. Okay, first we'll take off our mud flap. I probably have some old vinyl in behind here from removing the wrap. Guess we'll see. Now I've modified this area a bit because I took the bracket out from behind the well liner so I could pull it back a little further. So definitely go to their website and check out their instructions if your truck is stock in this area. Mine is not. Now again, I'm going off script a little bit. I'm working by myself. I don't have somebody helping me like they recommend in the instructions. Some of my bolt holes aren't gonna line up because the bracket's not there, but that's okay. The fitment should still be the same on a stock truck versus what I've done when I've taken out the mud flap bracket. So they do recommend taking this grease pencil, drawing a line on here, and then showing where the center of each of these rivets is. But I'm just gonna use tape because I don't want the cleanup of having to wipe off the grease pencil later. Yeah, the grease pencil might have been easier, but whatever. Now we want to apply the provided adhesion promoter in these areas here because they coincide with the adhesives that are behind every rivet on the fender flare. Now we take this tool here and we press down on the adhesive and just work it in as best as possible all the way around the threaded area here. And that way we know it's not going to fall off. And as for the adhesion promoter that's on here, it's not going to damage the clear coat. Now we can put it back on for the final time. And just snug should be good enough. Well, we're almost done this one, but you thought I forgot about this, the thread locker. I left it off on purpose because I still might wrap the truck, or I might wrap these. I want to be able to take them off with ease. So once I decide what I'm going to do in the near-ish future, then I can add the thread locker. Just have to put this bracket on under here. One of the provided screws goes in like that, and then this goes into the body. Now these go all along the fender flare, wherever these notches are. There's 6 on the front one, and you might need some help just prying them apart a little bit to get the gap right to sandwich the original plastic and the new fender flare together. Pinched my tape just a little bit here. Got to bring those wheels out a bit, but this is very solid. Now I think you get the idea of what the installation looks like. I'm going to put this together quickly and then do the other side. Well, I'd say we're making progress. We got the front fully assembled, ready to go to put the spacer on the wheel. And now we have the back done as well. These are solid. Still got to wipe them down a little bit, but they are installed. I still have to do the other side, but let's not waste any time and let's get these wheel spacers put on. Well, my friends, I have to say, I'm very happy with how this looks with the wheel spacers, with the fender flares. So I'll show you right now what we're looking at. Here we go. We'll do a more comprehensive review after, but I just wanted to show you where the wheels come out to, where they poke. You can kind of see at the back there. And what I've done on this side is I've already put the spacers in, but no fender flares. So you can see how far they stick out, what a couple inches would look like. Taking the mud flaps off of here already. So I'm excited to get this finished. Now it's getting a little later out. I'm gonna pull the car in. Because I'm done on that side of the truck, I'm gonna move the truck over, put the car to bed, call it a night, and we'll see you in the morning. Well, good morning. Here we are another day and we're gonna get this done. I thought I'd do a little bit of a mock-up though out of curiosity. I wanted to see what would this look like if I did the mud flap delete, the wheels already sticking out, and then we add the universal mud flap after. And that's where it would go, roughly. I don't think it looks bad. I think it looks pretty good, but I don't think that this metal would fit. We'd probably have to notch out a bunch of it because when I turn this wheel at full lock, it's going to rub. These fender flares come pretty flush into here, although I'm gonna have to cut a little bit of plastic out from the inside because when I'm at full lock, it would kind of hit in this region. I had to do the same thing on my EGR fender flares, so that's not a big deal to me, but we are mostly ready to get finished up. All my friends, we got the install done with exactly this much trimming. That's right, we had to trim a little bit off of the front here, just inside there by the wheel at full lock. There's about 1/2 inch of clearance now, whereas before it was rubbing this ever so slightly. Of course, we'll have to be careful when we hit, approaches, coming in the driveways and things, but I think we should be pretty good. If we have to trim a little more, there's a little bit more material there we can work with. But all in all, it went pretty smooth, except we are missing one clip. I'll have to try and get a hold of that. And I think I'm gonna order the black bolts that they have available. So you can get a bag of bolts, they'll be black, and it might go that way. But I think right now, we need a montage. Sky's getting pretty dark out there. I think I better get home before the storm catches up with me. But I'm so happy with the stance now. These fender flares give it that aggressive look that we had before. I do think I'm gonna pick up the black bolt set because the chrome, I deleted all the chrome when I got the truck. There wasn't a lot there to begin with, but I don't want any chrome. So I might have to change that sooner than later. Hopefully you guys agree. Hopefully you like this mod. I do have more planned for this truck and others. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But if you like this video, support the channel and hit that like button. Please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you, and we'll talk to you next time.